Uncertainty and possibility are two sides of the same coin. I think some of our anxiety and fears come off of the uncertainty of things, right? The uncertainty of what we're doing, the uncertainty of life, right? It's diving into the unknown. It's hard to be encouraged to do something when we don't know or we can't see what the outcome is. So just as much of uncertainty that we have or that we can see or we can identify, I think it's the equal amount of possibilities. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the new episode of the Myles Hype podcast. This is Myles Jr. I'm your host. And as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. So I wanted to use this podcast to do a spin-off of what we discussed in our last episode last week. That episode it was pretty much a episode that it was encouraging you that you are enough. And I wanted to just dig a little deeper into that, right? Because I think some of our anxiety and fears come off of the uncertainty of things, right? The uncertainty of what we're doing, the uncertainty of life, right? It's diving into the unknown, right? That could be very scary, right? It's hard to be encouraged to do something when we don't know or we can't see what the outcome is, or we can't see what it is that we're going into. And I just wanted to use this episode to speak on just that, right? How do we tackle the unknown? I want to start off by saying, like, uncertainty and possibility are two sides of the same coin. I said this quote to my wife the other day, and just kind of wanted to get her feedback, and she was like, she was a bit puzzled. Yeah, that's fair to say.
Yeah, because I was like, ain't it the same thing?
Yeah, and I had to say it a few times for her to realize like what was being said, or like what it means. And it's I think it's really something that we should say to ourselves, or even ask ourselves when we're confronted with the uncertainty of things, right? There's a decision that you have to make, or you have this idea that you want to go and chase something or do something, but the end isn't promised, the outcome isn't promised, right? And you're asking yourself, man, should I do this, or should I do the safe thing, or should I do this other thing? But we don't know what the possibilities are. We don't know the possibilities of us just attempting to do what it is that we're thinking of doing, right? This vision that we're given, this word that we've been given, the goals that we have, chasing those goals, or chasing purpose, the purpose in our lives. Like, we don't know the possibilities, even though there's this big unknown, or this big uncertainty of, man, how is this going to look in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? The possibilities, I think, are also endless, right? So just as much of uncertainty that we have, or that we can see or we can identify, I think it's the equal amount of possibilities, right? So uncertainty and possibilities are two sides of the same coin. And when I think about the unknown, it always takes me back to a friend of mine. He had a kid when in like early 20s. He had a child, and I always remember like that period of him having a kid. Because the kid wasn't planned. It wasn't something that he was expecting. But him being the upstanding guy that he was, he took responsibility of his actions, right? And, became a father and wanted to be a father. And about 7 years into his kid's life, man, I just remember being so inspired by him, right? I was inspired by the relationship that he had with his kid, the father that he was, right? And I just remember asking him, man, you being a first time father and going through this, and you seem to have like everything going well, right, with your relationship and your kid. Like how you doing this, bro? Like tell me something, because when I get to this point, like I'd love to be able to build the relationship that you've built. And I just remember him looking at me, and he was like, he had a puzzled look on his face, and he was like, me? Like, bro, I out here winging it, right? He was like, I out here winging it. And that I think that changed my perspective on so much things, like when I looked at life, right? Life in its entirety, right? Because we look at people and we think, man, they have it all together, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they look structured, and they look wise in what they're doing. But there are no sureties, right? There's no blueprint. There's no plan that everyone should be following. And just like my friend, like a lot of people just out here winging it, and they've just become good wingmen, right? Good people who are able to wing things, right? It's kind of like the mindset of you build the wings while you're falling. And just his perspective on things, because I knew my perspective in like looking at him and his kid and thinking like, man, this is like, he seems to have it all figured out, or is doing a good job at whatever it is that he's doing. And I just kind of wanted to get some inspiration, or some notes or whatever that I could take and apply to myself one day. And he was like, man, I am out here winging it, bro. Like I guessing every day. Like it's just a big, we just figuring it out as we go. And that's how I think life is, right? There's this uncertainty of things, like when we have kids, or when we get married, or like when we get a job, or when we start a business, like all of these uncertainties that can happen. And I think if we continue to look at the uncertainty of things, or continue to be fearful of the unknown, like we're not going to focus on the possibility of things, right? We're not going to focus on the things that we could achieve, right? And it goes back to like what I always say, like mindset is everything. Like everything changes once your mind changes. So as long as I think it all happens, or is determined by how we look at things, right? It's determined by our perspective. And for me, I wanted to give some points on how we can tackle the unknown, right? Because there are some things that we're able to control, and then things that we aren't able to control. And when thinking about like uncertainty and the unknown, I think one of the first things that we can attempt to control is we can routine the definite, right? Those things that are definite in our lives, right? Those things that we can expect to happen. We can control what we know, the things that we know and can expect, that we can control those. And those are like our daily habits, right? The time we go to bed, the time we wake up, our meals for the day, the clothes that we put on, we can control those things. So I think putting those things into a routine, right, where we go to bed at a certain time, wake up at a certain time, we eat our meals at a certain time, or we eat certain type of meals throughout the day. You could meal prep, just develop a routine with the things that you can control, because it'll take less stress off of you trying to figure those things out, right? I read this book one time, and it just talked about well, actually it was an article, and it was just talking about like these particular CEOs of these large companies, and these entrepreneurial CEOs of these large companies who were successful, and they were talking about some of the things that they did in their lives that helped them to be successful. And one of those things were like they developed routine with the minor things. So like the clothes that they wear, the meals that they eat, the time that they went to bed, they woke up, they developed these routines, right, where they would wear, they would get 100 black T-shirts and wear those black T-shirts every day. Where get 50 jeans and wear those 50 jeans every day with the black T-shirt. So it is things that they have incorporated into their daily routine that they don't have to think about, and they could apply more of their energy and their time and their efforts into the things that required those time, efforts, and thought, right? And I think we can do the same thing, right? Because if we can control what we can control, everything that we can control, then the things that we can't control are the things that we need to put a lot more energy towards, right? We'll have more energy to put towards those things, right? So develop your daily habits, develop daily routines, exercise. You could, I think we should all have a prayer routine. We should set time aside for reading or gaining information, developing some skills. Develop some time for even taking breaks, right? Put breaks into our routine, because I think rest and breaks are important as well. And then another thing that we can routine the definite is, and I was talking to Sharice about this the other day as well, like find something that you're afraid of, right? Something that fears you, a small thing, right? It could be, the fear of drowning, or the fact that you can't swim, or if you are unhealthy or overweight or whatever, and you could develop these things where you're putting new routines into your daily routines, right? So if you can't swim, or you have a fear of drowning, or you have a fear of water, like tackle that fear, go to a swimming class. If you have a fear of physical contact, right, go to a boxing class, take a boxing class, take a karate class, go to a kickboxing class, like put some stuff into your routine to challenge your fears. And like I said, there's small fears, like nothing big, nothing major, but things that as you overcome these fears, overcome these challenges, right, it could boost your confidence, and it could produce for you in other areas of your life. So, remove the challenging, or start challenging the small fears in your life. And then I think, the mindset that we should have is we should remove all restraints. And when I say remove all restraints, I'm talking about destroying the box. People say always think outside the box. Well, I think you should destroy the box. When we're thinking about the unknown and thinking about uncertainty, I think we should approach it with a clean slate, right? Don't worry about what tradition says. Don't worry about what the normalcies are in society or in the world. Don't worry about what the rules are, right? What people say the rules should be, like this is what you should do. This is how you should do it, because this is what's been done, for X amount of years or X amount of period of time. Remove all the restraints and go into it with a clean slate, and just think of it as a task for you. If you can do whatever you want, however you want to do it, how am I going to achieve this goal? How am I going to crush this goal? How am I going to, even though I don't know, even though there is so much uncertainty or so much unknown, how am I going to make this possible? And I think if we adopt that mindset, and just change our perspective, change the way that we look at things, I think we're going to see new ways and new processes that we can do things. I've always been a person that has adopted, in whatever I do, like whatever it is, if I've done something last year, if I've done something last week, and I have to do a similar thing this year or this week, I don't want to do what I did last year. I don't want to do what I did last week. Don't tell me how we did it. Don't tell me what we did. You say lies? Why? Because
you would want to go to the same place every year.
I'm sorry?
You would want to go South Africa every year.
That's not what I'm talking about. we do different things in South Africa every year.
We do.
All right.
It's just a joke.
Nah, but if I am able to, or if I have to do the same task, or the similar task, I'm going to think of a way to do it differently. How can I make it better? How can I just do it different? How can I have a different spin on it of this year, right? So I destroy and remove all the restraints, right? All the rules, all the old traditions, all the normalcies or the stereotypical status quos that exist in whatever industry or whatever area of business that I'm in, or whatever area of life that I'm in, right? As long as I'm not breaking any laws, everything is fair game, right? I think you should always attempt to challenge every rule, challenge every normalcy, challenge every status quo. But as long as you aren't breaking any laws, I think the door is open to the possibilities that could happen.
So I have a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my finest moment, but I tend not to bring this up because he gets on me a lot. So before we launched the app, we were having a conversation about actually launching an app, and he was asking me, from experience of building an app, my thoughts on it. And I was like, oh, what you want to build an app for?
But a little backstory. So Sharice was a part of an app building process, or
Sharice was the app building process.
Sharice built an app before. So she had built an app.
Let me tell it my way. Show it to be.
You didn't say that. You didn't say that piece. So I asked you because you had already built an app.
Yes,
before.
I have a very strong entrepreneurial spirit, and I did a lot of things. And one of them was building a travel app. And so he came to me for advice. And I was like, I don't think you should build an app. It costs too much money. It's too much work. And I don't know, because of all of the things we have going on, and why would you want to change it? So I was very discouraging of this app. I was very discouraging and not of any help. And so that was that was a lot of friction, because I was just like, I was one of those people who was discouraging at the time. And looking back, that taught me a valuable lesson, but it also taught me that my husband ain't gonna listen to me if he's convicted to do something, which I am happy about, because now we have an app that services so many people, that is timely, that is another business model that we, love and are moving more into. So if you haven't downloaded the app, now would be a good time to do so. It's on the Apple as well as the Google Play Store.
I'm on the global app, guys.
And to see where it came from, and to see where it is now, I'm just so proud of him, and that he did not listen to me. So this is my advice to you is, don't listen. Even the people closest to you, do what you are convicted to do.
And that's not saying don't look for advice, right? Because I think, getting the advice and the recommendations of those around us is important, especially when we're dealing with things that we don't know, or there's so much uncertainty involved. But I think we need to understand that we need to take it
with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I wouldn't say with a grain of salt, but, take everything into consideration, right? Because understand that the advice or the recommendations that they're giving you it from their experiences.
Absolutely.
And when I speak about like moving traditions, removing normalcies, going against the grain, or just breaking the rules, like with Sharice, if I had listened to her, because her mindset was, man, it was expensive. It was a lot of work, it was a lot of back and forth with some of the developers. So she was thinking of like the negative things or the negative aspect of building the app. But I'm thinking of, man, well, if we could get past that, like this could be something special. This could be something great, right? So I think it's all about perspective, and understanding like, okay, yeah, because, Sharice went through it, or someone has gone through what it is that you would like to do. It's good to get their insight, right? It's even good to learn like what they failed at, like what they didn't do good at, so that you can think about, well, how can I better this, right? Because, there's a piece of the puzzle that is here in the front of me. Someone that attempted to do it. Obviously, they're not going to do it the way that I did or the way that I want to do it. But I could learn something from their process. But just be aware of the fact that their experiences is influencing their opinion. And I think once we understand that principle, I think it should be easier for us to decipher, what is good information from what is biased information, and just be smart with it. So remove all the restraints, right? Think, just throw away the box, right? Destroy the box, and approach this uncertainty with an open mind, right? An open perspective, and just be as creative as possible for you to try and, make the impossible possible. And then the next thing is to take the first step. I think a lot of the times, like the biggest setback for a lot of us who aren't able to achieve things is just the fact that we don't make the first move, right? We allow the uncertainty or allow the fear to just cause us to be stagnant and cause us to be fearful of moving, or cause us to have this mindset of, man, I have to have all these things in place before I start. My recommendation is to always start wherever you are. Just start. You'll figure everything else out once you take that first step, right? So, just move, right? Just get active, right? Be proactive in what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and you'll start to see that the right people are going to start to come around, or the right technologies, or the right tools that you need is going to become available to you. Or you're going to be able to identify what it is that you need. And I think, once we start, like, those things fall into place. But if we don't start, like, nothing can be attracted to stagnant energy, right? I think as we move through life and move on the journey of what it is that we've set out to do, our movement causes people to see us, right? Our movement causes people to be attracted to us. Our movement causes people to want to join what it is that we're doing. But that won't happen unless you take a step, you make a move. So I'm encouraging you to be productive, man. Just regardless of how uncertain you are about the end or how impossible it may seem, just start with that first step. And I think you will be surprised what it is you'll be able to accomplish. And then lastly, and I think this is the most important, I think we need to develop our spirit, man, right? The friends, the family members, the associates, the business mentors, or the life mentors, the life coaches, like, all of them are great to have, right? All of them are great to bring into the fold, to encourage us and help us. But I think, having an internal moral compass, right? And that for me is my relationship with God, and being able to hear from him clearly, right? Knowing what it is that he is saying, understanding the signs that he is showing me, and just being able to connect to my source, right? Because everything that I am, everything that I need is funneled through him to me. And if there's no connection, right, there's no way that, the things that I need, the information that I need to download, the answers that I'm looking for, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get those, right? And, in connecting with the source, it always reminds me of just a few prayer-like scriptures, right, from the good book that, we've all learned, we've all heard. I asked my wife about this first one, because I learned it as the shepherd's prayer. Everyone else in the room, y'all know what the shepherd's prayer is? Y'all heard about the shepherd's prayer? Anyone ever heard of shepherd's prayer?
Exactly.
No one ever heard of shepherd's prayer.
Exactly. No, that's the serenity prayer.
Yeah, that's the prayer of serenity. You only know the shepherd's prayer? Psalms 23?
Exactly. That's what we learned.
That's the shepherd's prayer?
Yeah, but it is, but like we didn't call it that. Yeah.
Yeah. Psalm 23, the shepherd's prayer. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leadeth me. So, I mean, that verse, I feel like when we're uncertain, right, just repeat that verse in your head. Psalms 23, right? That's something that we can, I learned that from a very young age. So it's always been something that I have leaned on in times of uncertainty, right? Because it's not for me to know where it is that I need to go or what it is that I need to do. It's just me, connecting to the source, like I said, and the source guiding me. And then the second verse is Psalms 91, right? And, that verse, I think, deals a lot with the uncertainty, right? In the arenas and the valleys that we walk in, right? And that's the verse that speaks of, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. That's a prayer that we've been praying for years, right? That's something, but I don't let that just be something that we do as a custom, right? Let it become a lifestyle. Let it become a part of this spiritual growth that we're trying to achieve and accomplish. Because I don't think we could accomplish anything in life without a connection to our source, right? The entity that we came from, right? The life, the individual, the source that gave us life, that provided us with the abilities and the talents that we have, in order for us to learn and to understand how to use those talents to the best of our abilities and in the way that we're supposed to be using them, there has to be a connection to the source. And, like I said, I challenge you to go and read Psalms 23 and Psalms 91 if you have never done it before. For those of you who have, just go remind yourself, especially in these moments of uncertainty, right, where there's so much of the unknown that is confronting you, and it's causing you to be a bit stagnant and be fearful. I think I've been able to grow to a point where I love not knowing what the other side is going to look like. And again, just stemming off of last week, like there are going to be times where you doubt, like, man, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I the person that should be doing this? Do I have enough? Do I have what it takes? But once you get past that, man, just go straight head on into the unknown. Because, like I said, uncertainty and possibility are two sides of the same coin. And I tend to look more at the possibilities, right? And I would lose more because I'm focused on the possibilities than not lose because I'm focused on the uncertainties. Now, sometimes that works. Sometimes that's a positive thing. It could be a negative thing, but at the end of the day, it's all a learning experience, right? So that's my encouragement for all of us today, right? Routine the definite, remove all restraints, do away with the box, just destroy the box entirely. Take that first step and develop your spirit, man. Those are my challenges for each of us today, whenever it is that we're faced with uncertainties in life, because, there's uncertainty in everything that we do. My wife and I deciding to get married, there's an uncertainty within this marriage and the length of it or the life of it, right? There's uncertainty in having kids. There's uncertainty into getting a new job or chasing or going after, a higher position in the company that you're in. There's uncertainty in starting a business. There's so much uncertainty in life, but that doesn't mean that we can't do our part in making sure that we're not focusing on the uncertainty in things, but we're looking at the possibilities. All right. So that brings us to the segment in the part where I want to leave with you a milestone. And the milestone for today is simply this: only those who risk going too far can find out how far one can go. This quote really hit home, and this is a quote by T.S. Eliot. Only those who risk going too far can find out how far one can really go. I see myself as a limit tester, right? I will push the limits. I will do all of it that I can as often as I can just to see how much I can do. And I think we all should have, or should work towards having that perspective. Because I think once we understand that the focus should be on the possibilities, I think we'll be willing to take the risk, because the reward that we're going to receive in the end is going to be so much more greater than the lack of reward we would receive if we focus on the uncertainty and do absolutely nothing. All right. So let's be risk takers. Let's push the limit, and let's just see how much we have, how much we possess as individuals, and how far we can go in this journey. All right. And that brings us to the end of this episode. I want to thank you guys for always tuning in. The goal and vision of this pod is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. Until next time, you guys stay blessed.